All right, so we're here with a big, motivator of mine. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we're here with Coach Cox, Dick Cox of Cox Sports Broadcasting. I want to just talk to him a little bit today about his career from being a coach of a respectable program and also starting his own thing, which is Cox Sports Broadcasting. Hashtag invested. We want to find all types of business owners, all types of people who are doing things that are credible, that are pushing themselves and showing others that the process can be done and can be achieved. So we'll get into the talk really quickly. So I want to introduce Coach Cox here, and we'll jump into the questions. First, we'll talk about just your coaching career. So
okay.
I just want to ask you for the first question, what was some of the influences that led you to coaching? Before you got started, just who were some of the influence, or what did you do, what did you watch that led you to want to aspire to achieve that?
Okay. Well, a lot of people aren't going to believe this, but when I was a little boy, I loved NASCAR. And my fantasy still is to drive a race car.
Okay.
That I wanted to do that. But probably when I got to be around 10 years old, or in that age group right there, that I got to where I loved watching the University of South Carolina basketball games.
Awesome.
It's when the legendary coach Frank McGuire was down there. And Coach McGuire came in and brought the guys from New York down, John Roach, Tom Owens, and all those guys, and did things that had never been done before in basketball in the state of South Carolina. And from that point on, I loved basketball. I wanted to play college basketball.
Yep.
I wanted to be a basketball player, but the thing that was kind of really neat later on in life, when I became a young coach, I actually got to meet Frank McGuire and sit down in his office and talk one-on-one with him, though. But probably Frank McGuire at that time was in his South Carolina teams, made me fall in love with basketball.
Awesome. Okay, so we got the foundation there. So you were a varsity high school coach.
Well, yes, I did, but I had to go through all of the ladders and up the ladder, which was a challenge. While I was at USC Upstate there, I was a member of the basketball program team there. And I was playing behind that time a guy named James Holland, who is now the Associate Commissioner of the Big South Conference.
Okay.
Went on after he left USC Upstate, played for the Harlem Globetrotters, was Curly Neal's backup.
Awesome.
And the coach's son was the number 2 point guard.
Okay.
So you can see my future of playing there was not going to be real good. But Coach Henson offered me, at that time, he didn't have any assistant coaches. And wanted to know if I would be interested in switching over and being a student assistant coach. And my first assignment was that we were playing Central Wesleyan back then.
Okay.
USC Upstate was a small-time program then, that before Bill Henson, who was my high school coach, took that job. They had was only winning like 2 and 3 games a year. Kind of like when I took over the Bowling Springs job. But he had brought in Bill Henson was a great recruiter and had brought in some really good players at that time, though. And so my first assignment was to go and scout Central Wesleyan, the team who was the number 1 team in the conference, who the year before had represented the conference and played in the national tournament in Kansas City. Well, I looked forward to that, and I was young and I was eager and went there, and I've been a student of the game all my life, and I came back with a 7-page scouting report. I picked up every tendency that after every free throw, they jumped into a 1-2, 1-1 full court press.
Awesome.
When they changed defenses, what their players' tendencies were going left to right and all. And I wrote up and gave the team all the information, 7 pages worth right there. And lo and behold, we upset Central Wesleyan that ball game, and that got me started then, that they moved me in, and I became our chief scout and stuff, to scouted all the teams and went Newberry, all these places there that we were playing, and that got me started.
Interesting.
The coaching ranks there.
So that's something I didn't know. So you actually started as a scout.
started out as an assistant coach. Now I did have, on the floor responsibilities.
Okay.
But at that point, then there was a limited number of people on the staff. There's only just a couple of us. There was Coach Henson and there was 2 student assistant coaches. One of them went on and actually was a strength coach for the Utah Jazz.
Oh, that's cool.
So he went on and things went real well for him though. So I coached at USC Upstate. When I left there, and I was getting married, and I actually coached the men's program for a couple of years. Even was assistant head coach of the women's program for 1 year there. Then it kind of was at the point there that I had graduated and all, and was needing to get out in the real world and make the bigger money.
Yes.
That I had to take a coaching job at a middle school.
Okay.
I went to, at that time, Lincoln Middle School, which is now Dawkins. But my primary thing was they wanted me to be a football coach. So a football coach that would also coach girls basketball.
Double duty.
Double duty. And that's how I got my foot in, not as being a basketball coach.
Okay.
When I did my practice teaching at Roebuck, I'd worked as an assistant football coach down there.
I like that, though.
And so they hired me as an assistant football coach to coach girls basketball. My very first team at Lincoln, I left a team at USC Upstate that went to the semifinals my last year there, and there to a girls basketball team. My first day of tryouts only had 2 girls that could shoot a layup. You talk about going into culture shock. But I'm proud to say my first team there, that first day only had 2 girls shoot layup, play for the championship that year.
Awesome.
And so I coached middle school girls for several years. I coached middle school boys and had a couple of undefeated seasons with them. And the hardest thing for me was in getting into coaching was, and I applied for a lot of jobs, was we like you and like that, but you don't have any varsity experience.
Bingo.
And my question is, how can I get varsity experience if nobody will ever give me a chance?
That's what a lot of people face, even in the real world.
So then I had, after coaching middle school girls, middle school boys, then I moved up to 9th grade coach at Dorman.
Okay.
They had not had a winning season in forever. We had a winning season. Next year, I got promoted to JV coach at Dorman.
Okay.
And that was, I think Coach Freeze was coaching at Dorman then. And I was a JV coach and assistant head coach there with Coach Freeze. So I got moved up to there. And again, we had a winning season and all like that. And then the next year, the Bowling Springs job opened up. And I remember going in for the Bowling Springs job, and I will forever be thankful to Folin Henson and Eddie Cole that they gave me a chance.
Gave you a chance.
Right. And it's funny because when I was interviewed for that job, superintendent told me, my final interview, we'd like for you to be our basketball coach. And I said, well, when do I have to let you know by? I said, I need to think about it. When do I have to let you know? He said, what's there to think about it? I said, number one, I said that I've already been promised by the superintendent and School District 6 that I'm next in line for the varsity job at Dorman. And number two, this has been a coach's graveyard. There ain't never been anybody at this school go on to anything bigger or better.
Leverage.
And he looked at me then, and this was my motivation in coaching there. He said, if you could ever win 8 games in 1 year, you could go anywhere in the state you wanted to. My first year, we won 12. Awesome. And we were a missed layup away on Viking 2 from making the playoffs that year. And from that point on, we only had 2 seasons that we didn't win 8 ball games. That was my goal, was at least 8. And see, I'd never had a losing season in any years of being a head coach. And for him to tell me we win 8 ball games, we win 8 before Christmas. And that was our thing. We always usually won 7 or 8 before Christmas, though. But that kind of set the trend, though, to go on. And I ended up, when I left Bowling Springs, being the all-time winningest coach there with 151 wins. And I also stayed 14 years, which is the longest anybody has ever stayed in that position.
Longest tenure. Okay. So talking about Bowling Springs, the Bowling Springs varsity program.
Right.
So let's talk about that journey, that particular journey. You know, after
And what a journey.
after you got the position with Bowling Springs, all the way, you know, the 14 years. So talk about the journey, the process of building a respectable program, because that's definitely what it became. So just, you know, just give us some key points on building that.
Well, the first things I wanted to do, and again, you're talking about a program where the players were embarrassed to wear their letter jackets in public to the mall.
Bingo.
And things. You're talking about a program that maybe the last 2 or 3 years combined, it only won like 3 games, averaging 3 wins a season or 2 wins a season and all. The first thing I wanted to do was to make it fun.
Good.
To come in, that the style of ball we played was, you know, up and down. I thought it was a fun, it was the kind of brand of basketball I love to play.
Yes.
Up and down the floor. I looked at it from the standpoint, the early years, we did not have the athleticism to line up and play man-to-man because, again, you play man-to-man defense, you got one player that can't play it, they're going to find out who that player is, and they're going to eat his lunch.
Eat his lunch.
So we used a lot of multiple defenses, and I wanted it, and people don't realize this, that I felt like not only was I in charge of putting a good product out there, basketball, but we were also a form of entertainment.
Yes,
We wanted to make the games fun.
It is.
So I painted the seats. I painted them myself for the dog pound.
Really?
And I went back, and we were the first team in Spartanburg County. A lot of people have copied us since then now. Turning out the lights. I see where Dorman's doing all
now
that.
we're getting somewhere.
And
okay.
Y'all didn't realize this.
Okay.
I went up there
Now we're getting
at
somewhere.
night and would synchronize. I timed it.
Uh-huh.
Our whole pregame show to know when to have Mr. Knight, at what part of the music to have him turn the lights off, where they'd have time to be warming back up for the tip-off. That was all synchronized
Yes.
and practiced and
Yes.
rehearsed while y'all weren't there.
Yes.
So we tried to put the fun things, to put people in the stands, to make it a fun event to come to the ball game. We tried to make it the type thing, you know, environment you played. And my philosophy was, that y'all know this too, I was going to give you the best uniforms, the best of everything that money
Yes.
could buy.
Yes.
Because in return, I wanted you to give me the best that you had.
Bingo. Bingo.
And
bingo.
that was the thing, because I'm a firm believer that if you look good, if you look better than that other team, you're going to feel pretty good playing. You're going to think you're better than them.
I agree.
And that was one of the things that I tried to do in building the program over the years, that it was funny that I even had college coaches that when they came in recruiting a player, and it was some of the uniforms that y'all wore there. For not was, you know, what's Junior over here, how's he doing? He's like, man, where did you get your uniforms? I said, I designed all of them. And I've got on my own design uniform that I had made myself today.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
But that's one thing I really miss, is not getting designer uniforms anymore.
I understand.
But the clown pants, the red, white, and black striped warm-up pants, and all the stuff there, like we said, with the music and the 3-tree and projecting the starters up on the wall and all, I wanted to do it. And again, my philosophy too was, there were a lot of people that played for me, and again, I'm proud that 17 players that played for me got college scholarships.
Yep.
But a lot of people didn't get them, and I wanted them to feel as close to the big time as they could, because a lot of them weren't going to ever make it to the big time.
Understood.
I wanted to make it a big time
Understood.
thing for basketball at Bowling Springs.
Understood. I understand. And that's good. So okay, so we're gonna stay on the high school just for now. We got several questions about Cox Sports, and that's where we're gonna take it. But I got one more question, pretty much about the high school. So tell me, that way we can get the mindset down. We got the sports and everything and the jersey. So tell me, what did you learn from being a coach? And also tell me, what do you hope you taught some of your former players?
Okay, one of the biggest things that I learned in coaching, and I learned a lot of things. The first thing is, you take care of the people who take care of you. That I wanted to make sure the people who had done the little things, whether it be my coaches, my players, or the people that do that I learned that throughout life. Always take care of the people that take care of you. Mm-hmm. I learned the value, and we talked about this come walking over here a minute ago.
Yes, we did.
About the family atmosphere and love with your players.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I consider you and all the guys and all the girls that play for me when I coach that, y'all are members of my extended family.
Exactly. Yes.
And I love keeping up on Facebook and all, and would do anything for any of them because of what you did for me, helping me to fuel my passion and love for the game of basketball. That again, I consider y'all family members. I always will to the day I die. And all, but y'all were always special to me, and there'll always be that special bond with my players, and I hope the players feel that way and all too. But those were two important things just right off the bat that I can think of.
Awesome, and that's good. That's really good. It's a coach's mentality, is what that is. Wanting to make sure that those who were led by you, just were able to become great men, and I think that you achieved that. So let's move over to more of why I brought you here. So tell me really quickly, kind of explain the transition. You don't have to go into the details, but maybe the mindset of transitioning from your career of coaching to starting your own entity, which is Cox Sports Broadcasting. Where did it start with? The motivation behind it?
Okay.
Any of that?
All right. Well, there came a time when the good Lord told me that maybe it's time to give up basketball.
Okay.
And it had reached a point, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details,
Of course.
there was a lot of backstabbing going on and a lot of things behind the scenes that y'all never knew of that were going on that really did not make it fun to coach anymore.
Understood.
That I can remember going home during the JV game to eat supper and change clothes and not wanting to come back because I knew what I was going to have to face with all the things, not facing y'all, but all the things to actually be able to do the game. And I got tired of basketball not being, congratulations by the people at the school there, congratulations on beating Spartanburg or beating Dorman tonight, but instead hearing we made enough money to pay for the spring sport tonight. And like I said, it was a hard decision. And facing you guys and telling you guys that I was not going to coach anymore was one of the hardest things I ever did in my life. That y'all say you cried, well, I did too. And that was really hard because I loved you guys. I thought that we were a year away from being a really good team and all, and that we improved during the year though. So I got out of coaching. Didn't have any idea what in the world God had in store for me because basketball been my whole life. I mean, I started my first basketball team playing when I was in the first grade, and had either played or coached all my life to this point. And it's like, what am I going to do now? Because I'm lost.
Exactly.
Well, back during the time when I was coaching, I'd had some fun. We had Eric Thacker broadcast our ball games. Our games were on the radio, and he had kind of gotten me into. When we did the coaches show, I always had fun just he'd ask me something and I would not give him the answer he was thinking I was going to give. And it's like, we were doing a game at Union one time down there and we were talking about that and we came on and he looked at me and said, well, Coach Cox, what do you think about tonight's game? And I said, well, we're live from the Hive. And he's like, what? and stuff. So I started thinking a little bit about broadcasting then.
Yes.
And I actually got involved to where I was doing high school football on Charter TV, the game of the week.
Okay.
And that was interesting. That was a really good experience. At that same time, open mic radio show, they asked me to come on and be a co-host, talking on ESPN 1400. It wasn't something else then. So I was a co-host every afternoon talking sports. And USC Upstate asked me to be the voice of the Spartans. And so I got a chance to broadcast men and women's basketball at USC Upstate, and it was streamed live. It was not pictures, it was just voice, audio.
Yes.
And also doing baseball and softball. And one of my greatest, maybe I got to get that question later. I won't jump into that one now, though. But that was fun, and I was doing that. Well, I got a little bit irritated that when the Carolina Panthers would come to training camp, the ESPN 1400 station was almost right across the street from training camp. And they never wanted to go over there and do anything, which didn't make sense to me. You've got the Panthers right here. And so right across the street, we're not going to go over and cover training camp. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to do that I wasn't getting to do. I was tired of staying in a studio all the time and never getting out because, you know me, I'm a people person. I like to be out and mingle and have a fun, good time with people. So I had learned enough things about the business, the equipment, how to do it, how to go about this and everything like that. Well, I decided I was going to start my own company. Awesome. And I remember the very first game I ever broadcast, the broadcast was a high school, on my own, was a high school basketball game at Dorman High School, and Coach Tony and I was doing play-by-play, he was doing color, and I had all my commercials on a CD and played them on my daughter's Flyward Jam Box, is what we used to play those, and that's how we started out. I think I still got that picture somewhere.
That's really funny because there's a lot of radio shows and things like that say they start out in ways that you would never imagine.
Right.
But it always works. So awesome. So we'll keep going forward. So the next question I want to ask you, what is it like to be your own entity, your own boss, to know that your drive, your mindset, your hard work is what drives your business and your dream? Or maybe it wasn't your dream, but now it's your new career, your newfound career.
The biggest thing and thing I enjoy most is I can cover who I want to.
Yes.
I can go where I want to and do what I want to. And heaven knows I have been so mad. I fired myself many a time, but I've rehired myself too, though. That some things, but I guess the biggest thing too is that I am when it comes to basketball, and when it comes to this, I was a perfectionist. It had to be done right. And I'm not, if I'm going to do this job that I'm doing right now, then we're going to, again, try to get the best equipment money can buy.
Exactly.
And I want it done right. It's not going to be some half-done job thing. That I want it to be professional, and I want it to be done right.
Yeah, because you get out what you put in.
That's right.
Always.
And the big thing about it is, it's got my name on it.
Exactly.
And so if it's not done right, then it's my name that looks bad. It's my face that looks bad. So that's that I'm really, just like in basketball, I'm really driven to be the best I can be. And this was a whole new career for me.
Exactly.
That I had no idea of. And and we went from the days of with the Jam Box, and that I had a good friend of mine, Eric Boynton, who's a sports writer for the Spartanburg Herald Journal. He taught me a lot about going to get in to do things, to broadcast, and to do things like training camp with the Panthers.
Yes.
And the biggest philosophy I learned from doing this, and what I still tell people today, is I did a lot of people said, how in the world do you get to cover the Carolina Panthers or the NBA and all like that? I asked.
How'd you get that job?
You're right. And the biggest thing was, my philosophy on that is, you never know till you ask. It may be something totally crazy.
Yes.
But if you don't ask, and if they say no, you ain't lost anything.
You haven't lost
anything. But if they say yes, you hit a home run.
You've gained a
And
ton.
I have covered, the Final Four, NBA playoffs. I have been Super Bowl, all this stuff because I asked.
Man, I think that's the best part of this whole thing right here. What I've heard so far is because you asked.
Again, that's the attitude.
Exactly right.
You never know until you ask, and if you say no, Lord, I know a lot of people that, that their wives, when they proposed, first time said no, but they hung in there. I'm not saying mine did that. Mine didn't do that, thank goodness. But, that's the thing. And I've been told no before.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not the end of the world.
It's not.
But I've been told yes a heck of a lot more than I've been told no.
Exactly. I love that.
And
so
that's the approach you got to have.
So I think maybe I'm about to ask you the question that maybe you said you were going to get to. Tell me if I'm right or not. So tell me one of the most memorable moments you've had from broadcasting.
I can't tell you one, but I'm going to tell you a couple.
Okay.
When I was at USC Upstate, one of my moments that will be on my cherish list was sitting courtside in Rupp Arena, broadcasting an Upstate game versus University of Kentucky on Radio Road, right next to the Big Blue Network.
Yes.
And this was what was really cool about it was, I'm sitting there just like we're sitting here interviewing Jay Free on the post-game show, and Tubby Smith and Joe B. Hall on the Big Blue Network Tubby was head coach then, are sitting right there,
Right
next
beside
to
you.
me, and I'll never forget that. Getting to broadcast the game, Rupp Arena, that's big time.
Yes,
right.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
Another place last year. I'm a stockholder with the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
I got to go last year to Lambeau Field.
Okay.
It snowed while we were there. I got snowed in.
That's good. That's good.
I got to do the Lambeau Leap. I got to go on the field and interviewed in the Panthers locker and in the Green Bay locker room, which I'm a huge Green Bay Packer fan, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh man.
So I got
okay.
to go to Green Bay, get snowed in. I actually, Coach Tony, while I was putting equipment up, I was going to meet him in the locker room, closed the door and locked me on the field in a snowstorm, and I couldn't get off the field. I had to climb the wall.
That ain't that bad.
Everybody
That ain't
gone.
that bad.
Everybody already gone. I got locked in on Lambeau Field though. But that was one. But just a lot of the people, I got to go to the Final Four as a member of the Duke media and was on the floor. Lucas Oil Stadium, where it's going to be played this year, the very last time it's played there, and was on the floor shooting video, which I was not supposed to be doing. I was standing right underneath Coach K when he cut the nets down.
Awesome.
And then went in the locker room with Winslow.
Yes,
and,
Justice Winslow.
Yep,
yes.
Winslow was there, and all those guys were in the locker room with them post-game with them, asking them questions about what it felt like to win the national championship.
I see why you have more than one.
Yep, got that. And then, I mean, the numerous people that I've had a chance to interview and meet.
Yes.
Peyton Manning doing that.
Yes.
I've interviewed Tom Brady before, Aaron Rodgers.
Amazing.
NBA. I could tell you who the good guys and who the jerks are in the NBA.
It's always good to know.
And I can tell you right there that people don't realize this, but one of my best friends in the NBA was Dwight Howard. That Dwight was my buddy.
Interesting.
Dwight would talk. Dwight would talk to me when he wouldn't talk to anybody else.
Really?
We had a thing. We had a relationship. That he first time he met me, he called me, thought I looked like Dr. Phil. He called me Dr. Phil. And every time I would walk in the locker room from then on, I'd walk in. He was with the Magic then. I'd walk in, Dr. Phil in the house tonight. What's up, Dr. Phil? And I'd give it right back to him and all like that. He'd ask me a question thinking he was going to embarrass me. Well, I don't embarrass.
Bingo.
And I would get him right back and all like that, though. But I was in there with him.
I don't embarrass.
And when he would be, I remember he was in there one night. They played in December, and he was making the rookies sing him Christmas carols while he changed his clothes. But, I've seen that.
That's pretty cool.
And I won't go into this one, but the biggest jerk I've ever met was LeBron James.
No!
He is.
No!
I took one of my kids that was in my foundation, Tron Foster. I don't know if you know Tron. He's a little young man that just graduated from Bowling Springs High School last year, who's battled leukemia and had to have his leg amputated.
Okay.
But I took him up there when he was battling leukemia, and he's still fighting it. That his favorite player was LeBron James.
Okay.
I took him up there, and I was interviewing LeBron, and when I finished, I said, LeBron, I got a little young man out here tonight. I said, can you give me about 10 seconds encouragement right here on this video to help him in his battle, some encouragement in his battle against cancer and leukemia? And he looked at me and said, not now, boss man, I'm busy, and all like that. And proceeded, he was busy sitting there cussing, bragging about how many assists he had and rebounds and all this other stuff in there, and shooting Gatorade bottles in the trash can. But he was too busy to give 10 seconds to a little boy that had cancer.
Oh, no.
And I have not, from that point on, and then I won't even interview him anymore. He photobombed me one time. I was on the court doing my wrap up, and he and J.R. Smith came up and got in the back of my camera and started to doing that and stuff. And it was kind of funny because I just kept going right on, didn't do it like that. And
Awesome. Okay, so I only have just like 2 more questions, but now I have to insert one other.
Okay.
Can you tell me about your foundation or the foundation that you're affiliated with?
Okay. It never really got off the ground.
Okay.
What I was trying to do is, and again, I've just had so many things going on like that, but I was wanting to try to find children that were having almost kind of like a Make-A-Wish Foundation type thing, and to take that were sports fans and take them to a pro game like that. I know Tron, I took him to several NBA games. He was my primary guy that I did that though, but I'll never forget that Tron was a Celtics fan.
Okay.
And I introduced him to Doc Rivers when
Yep.
Doc was coaching him.
Yep.
Doc came over and gave him a great big hug and told him, you keep pulling for the Celtics. And he said, I gave him a hug and he said, I promise you, Tron, he said, we'll be praying for you and we'll be pulling for you.
Awesome.
And then Rajon Rondo.
Rajon Rondo.
He don't talk to people.
You're right.
He does not
You're
talk
right.
to people or do
You're
anything,
right.
but he came over
Well,
and
from
talked
what I
to Tron.
see.
No, he does not. He came over and talked to Tron one-on-one that night.
I love that.
And Paul Pierce did too.
I love that. I watch
They
Paul Pierce a
came
lot.
over.
Yeah.
So, but that was, some of the guys where I took Tron down the locker room with me and got to do that though. But it was something I really wanted to do, but it never fell into place there though. But
Okay.
I was going to try to take that. I'd been blessed with the opportunity of meeting these guys, hanging out with them,
Yes.
interviewing them, and stuff like that. To maybe, if that was a dream, that when these kids that were facing possible death or life-threatening illness, to maybe help them reach their goals.
That is amazing. I like that. And that actually kind of actually intertwines with the next question. And I have just one more after that for you, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
And I greatly appreciate your time. But
Enjoyed it.
My next question is, what would you like, or how would you like Cox Sports Broadcasting to be recognized or even remembered? I know you're talking about the things that you tried to do with the children there, so that actually is a part of it. So how would you like it to be recognized when other people view it? What do you want them to see? Okay,
the first thing I want them to see is that we are positive in what we do.
Okay.
I get so sick and tired. I remember Bobby Crimmins, who used to be coach at Georgia Tech and a legend and all like that, gave me some good advice one time about broadcasting, because when I got out of coaching and started broadcasting, he'd done the same thing. And he said, three things you need to remember. He said, be honest,
Yes.
be fair, and remember you still are a big part of the game in what you do. And that's what I've tried to do. And coaches realize, and lots of times I tell them, and a lot of times I don't have to tell them, that my questions are a different line of questions. I want to know what the coaches and players are thinking.
Exactly.
Hey, you cut it to 10 at the half. What were you feeling going at the half? So if you get it to 10, we're back in this game. Or things like that, or what do you feel? I'm not one of these guys that used to make me so mad when I was doing the Panthers and they'd come in and ask Julius Peppers, how much do you think you're worth? I'd have turned around and said, how much you think you're worth? But I don't want the dirt. I want to find the good, happy, positive things.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to say about Cox Sports Broadcasting, that they were fair, that we were honest, and we looked for the positive things in sports, and we're not interested in digging up dirt and all the negative things. It's just like when I was coaching y'all and all like that, I tried everything I could do to promote y'all.
Yes.
And that's what I want to do now, is that I don't have one team. I want to promote everybody's players.
You have many.
Now. Right, I do.
Still the coach's mentality, just with multiple teams.
That's right. That I want to promote everybody's players. I want to promote every coach and show the best things I can about it.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so we'll get ready to wrap it up, and I have one final question for you, Coach. This one should be pretty easy.
All right.
This one's a personal question for me that I like to ask everybody. So I'm gonna ask you, what are you invested in? And it could be, if you need some pointers, I can give you some, but I think you got it.
All right, well, give me one of yours then to start.
What am I invested in?
Yes.
Okay. I am invested in motivating people. I'm invested in my daughter. I'm invested in connecting people to make them understand that we share so many things. Yes, we're different. Yes, we look different. Yes, we have different things that we like. Yes, we have different things that we enjoy doing. But ultimately, we all have a connection point that we need to learn to share. I want to change the narrative, starting with my local area, but as far as I can go, I have a very wide vision. So I would say that I'm invested in people. I'm invested in the betterment of people, self-empowerment, motivation, and becoming your best self. So
that's great.
You don't have to have so many answers, because I could keep going for like 3 hours if you needed me to, but I don't want to do that.
You didn't realize that was a broadcaster's little trick right there, where people could hear your platform.
I like that. I'm learning.
For them to get to hear what yours was.
I'm learning.
Mine is, I learned back going through the coaching process, I made a really big mistake.
Okay.
When I was trying to become a coach, I put sports first ahead of God, and I put sports first in front of my family.
Okay.
To try to climb that ladder, to make it up the ladder. I tried to be seen.
Yes.
I had to be there. I had to do this. I had to volunteer for that and that and that. And neglected those parts of my life.
Yeah.
And those are things that I pretty much decided, and I think you saw this too, to put God first in our sports, and that's who I wanted to have all the glory.
Yeah.
And winning the games or whatever we accomplish in sports, to use the talents there. And my family is extremely important to me.
Yeah.
That I lost my mother and father both within 6 months of each other when I was 29 years old.
Okay.
And have not had them, and I have missed them. And my wife and my daughter, I guess ever since I realized how stupid I was with sports, I have been trying to make it up to them every day.
Understood.
That they are important to me. I love to be around people. I love to help people.
Awesome.
And do anything I can to help them. If I watch TV and I'm a softie. If I see somebody like, oh, and like that though, that I just want to help people.
Yeah.
And be there for people. And if there's anything I can do to help anybody out, that's what I want to do.
Awesome.
And I want to use, like I said, I want to use my platform and my sports right now. That I think there is so many negative things in the sports
You're
world,
right.
And that's all you ever
Right.
hear.
You're
You
right.
don't hear about the good things going on.
Those get pushed forward.
Right. All people want to hear is negative, negative,
Yes.
negative. And that's why I want to talk about the good things, try to promote the good things, and again, just thank the good Lord for the opportunities that He's given me in life. I feel very blessed that I have, to have been able to be a part of a lot of wins and
Yep.
a lot of first things at Boiling Springs, and nobody ever gave me a chance. I'll never forget this, that when I went out on my own, I was covering an event, a Carolina Panthers event over in Greenville, and I went over there and had a nice tent. I had a big old inflatable Panther, had all my stuff over there. And somebody from ESPN 1400, who I didn't really care for, their former person, that we had different viewpoints, came over to me. He drove up in his little fancy van, put an old beat up wooden table out there, had no tent, had nothing over there. And he said, "Are you doing your little broadcast today?" And I had the Panther cheerleaders, Panther players, Mick Mixon, and everybody was at my tent. And he said he packed up his little 1400 table and went home early. And all that we had something. Are you doing your little broadcast today? Well, we've done it a lot of ways, and we've done it with we broadcast SEC media days,
Awesome.
ACC media
Awesome.
days. We've
Awesome.
done Super Bowl.
Awesome.
We've done NBA playoffs. We've done Final Four. We've done NASCAR. We've
You got your NASCAR in.
Yep, got my NASCAR in. We have done everything that I've wanted to do.
That's awesome.
And if
That's
I
really
can
awesome.
find another sport, something else comes out, I'll try it. I'll try it though.
I can
But
find
that's a
another
good thing.
sport.
Going back to your question earlier about being your own boss, I can cover whatever I want to,
Yes.
when I want
yes.
to, if I want
yes.
to.
Yes. That right there is motivation for a lot of people who maybe not have any interest in sports at all. Hope someone sees that who wants to start their own thing. Again, it doesn't have to be broadcasting. It doesn't have to be a motivational speaker. It could be anything you want. And I think people can learn from you to see that, if you have a goal, if a door closes, it's able to be opened, and go do other things. So I just want to finish up and appreciate your time, Coach. I really appreciate you coming out here.
Thank you.
I also really appreciate the lights. All right, going off. I really appreciate that. I'm a pumped up guy, so yeah, I really appreciate that. But other than that, we have Coach Cox here, as I know him, Dick Cox of Cox Sports Broadcasting, out here today in Spartanburg. It's a beautiful day. So we just appreciate his time. #invested. Make sure you follow our group. We have so many more things to come. We just want to learn and grow. That's pretty much it. So.
And please don't ever forget that you never know until you try.
Yes.
Again, don't
Yes.
be afraid.
Yes.
Go for the things in life you want. They say no. Hey, it ain't the end of the world. You didn't have it to start with, but they say yeah, you hit a home run.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.